This is a list of the 20 fastest Rubik's Cube solvers in the world. Now let me quickly highlight everyone under the age of 13. What the fuck? So why is it that most top-level speedcubers are literal children, including the reigning world champion and both world record holders? Well, to be fair, this wasn't always the case. Before 2023, pro Rubik's Cube competitions were dominated by older teenagers and young adults, with the occasional young prodigy making some noise every once in a while but never actually getting to the top spot. The last world record holders of this era were Max Park and Timon Kolashinsky, who fought an intense battle for the #1 spot during 2021 and 2022, resulting in 5 total world records and ending in a now infamous tie. However, all this time, something was cooking in the background. Something far greater than what anyone could have imagined. In October 2020, speedcubing manufacturer GAN announced that they were incorporating 2 new Chinese solvers to their team. One of them was 6 years old Jihen Wang, who could allegedly average under 8 seconds. This wasn't even close to the world record at the time, but don't get me wrong, it was still incredibly impressive for a 6-year-old. Heck, that's what I average, and I've been cubing for over 8 years. Yes, longer than he's been alive, I know. Of course, some people were skeptical, especially considering that his official results from last year peaked at around 22 seconds. But all doubts came to an end just 1 month later, when, again 6 years old, Jihen Wang attended his first official competition after what seemed like a crazy training arc, and he did not disappoint. And yeah, the kid could indeed average 7 seconds at 6 years old. That's insane, everyone thought at the time. After taking a look at his solutions, it turns out he doesn't have any secret tricks. He's just applying all the fundamentals of cubing correctly, nothing fancy. His turning speed and recognition were promising, but he still had many turning mistakes, mainly because of his hands not being big enough yet. After that competition, he kept improving and competing. Months later, he was already averaging 6 seconds, peaking at a 6:28 average in May 2021, ranking him 3rd in China. Keep in mind that the world record average at the time was 5:48, so at this rate of improvement it started to become a real possibility that a now 7-year-old could break the world record at any time. Thankfully, the rest of the world managed to get a head start. You see, due to COVID restrictions, competitions in China were cancelled from 2021 to 2023. That meant cubers outside of China were now able to lower the world record as much as possible without having to worry about a 7-year-old taking it out of nowhere, since, you know, he couldn't go to competitions, at least for the next 2 years. During this time, the era of Timon and Max's rivalry took place, ending with the 486 tied world record that we mentioned at the beginning. However, all this time, Jihen wasn't sitting around doing nothing. Sure, he couldn't go to competitions, but he could still practice, and that's exactly what he did, practice. A lot. His real speed became a bit of a mystery. Mainly due to the language barrier, the rest of the world had no clue what Jihen's progression actually looked like. Thankfully, in August 2022, we got to see a peek of the result of all this grinding, when cubing YouTuber LaserOMonkey managed to organize a 1v1 match between Jihen and, at the time 11th in the world, Leo Borromeo. And the result of said match completely shocked the cubing community.
Jihen has super fast turning. Can throw down some really fast times. Quickly transitioning into OLL and PLL. Very quick F2L. 577. Oh, that was a quick F2L. It's F2L by Leo. Little pause. Well, and the lockup on the OLL. And the wrong A-perm. And Jihen is solid. Great speed. And a 561. Oh, and a fantastic X-cross by Jihen. A fluid transition to the last layer and a 5 flat. He's turning well. Oh, but a bit of the lockup. Can he finish smoothly in a 598? Another quick start. A great F2L. Last layer. A bit locky, but a 594. That was a quick start to the F2L. Are you kidding me, Leo? If TPS can save you from that, this is for Jihen. With some inefficiency. A fluid transition. That's a quick start. Unfortunate cases, bears. A bit of a shaky last pair. Very similar solution. A bit more consistent, and Leo takes this 3rd set. Another dot OLL. Speedy F2L. Does he know the ZB? Oh, wow. Oh! Yihang taking the match 3 sets.
Not only did Jihen beat one of the best cubers in the world 3 sets to 1, but he also showed that with now slightly better hands and an extra year of practice, 5-second solves had become the norm to him. At this point it became crystal clear that once this kid was allowed to compete, the world record would be broken in an instant, and cubing would never be the same again. Even Leo predicted this exact scenario in the post-match interview.
Also, like next year, if he's able to go to a competition breaking the world record for 3x3 average.
Months later, the awaited date finally came. It was time for Jihan to show the world how much faster he had gotten over the last 2 years. It was time for Singapore Championships 2023. Before jumping into the results, I think now it's a good time to explain how cubing competitions actually work. In each round, the competitor solves the cube 5 times, and the result is the average of the 3 middle times, meaning that the fastest and slowest times are counted towards the average. This also explains why there are 2 different rankings, one for singles, meaning a competitor's best time overall, and one for averages. With all that said, let's see what happened at Singapore Championship 2023. Jihen started the first round with a 544 national record average, already an incredible result, but what's even crazier is that thanks to a lucky scramble on solve 4, he managed to get a 395 single, which at the time put him 5th in the world on the singles ranking, and yeah, the whole venue went crazy. So, after already securing the #1 spot in the country, it was time for round 2, and this is when things started to escalate rather quickly. .491 average, a new Asian record, the 3rd fastest average in the world, and just 0.05 seconds behind Timon and Max's world record tie. You might think that the missed timer stops cost him the record, but that's not really the case. The first one happened on his fastest solve, so it wouldn't have mattered if the time was a little bit faster, because the best time isn't counted when calculating the average, remember? And the second one happened on his worst solve, and even with a proper timer stop, it would still have been the worst solve anyway. In rounds 3 and 4, Jihen was unable to beat his average from round 2 or his single from round 1, but he still managed to win the competition with 2 more solid averages. After getting so close to the world record on just his first competition back, it became clear that it was only a matter of time before he would break it and become speedcubing's youngest #1 in history by a large margin. Just a month later, Jihen was in a competition in Malaysia, his 3rd one after coming back, and in round 3, the inevitable finally happened. A new world record, 4.69 average. For the first time ever, an 8-year-old was on top of the cubing world, something completely out of the question just a few years earlier. But that was the reality. Jihen Wang was the fastest speed cuber in the world, and no one could deny that. Now let's speed things up a little bit. Let me quickly go through what happened in the 2 years that followed Jihen's first world record. A couple of months later, he brought it down to an incredible 448 average. After that, he lost the World Championship title by 0.01 seconds, a devastating loss, but then he brought the world record down again, this time to 436, then to 425, shortly after to 409, then 409 again, then 405, 403, 391. Oh hey, he actually became world champion this time. And he broke the record again, it's 390 now, and he also got the world record single along the way. But you might think that Jihen is an outlier, 1 in a million, or 1 in a billion even. But what's that? Do you remember the rankings I showed you at the very beginning of the video? Who's that at number 1? That ain't Jihen. Don't tell me that's another kid. Yep, meet Xuan Jigen, even younger than Jihen, improved faster than Jihen, learned 800 different algorithms, took the world record average from Jihen, and the single too, just in case. But we're not done. There are more kids. There are always more kids. What's that? Someone took the signal from Xuanji? A 9-year-old? From Poland this time? With a time of 2 seconds? Are those all the kids? Of course not. Yufandu, 3rd in the world, 4.3 average, 11 years old. Saukon, 4th, 4.5 average, 11 years old. Jishen, top 10 in the world, 6 years old. Jisedong, 7 years old. Kishen, female world record holder, 9 years old. Hansen-Yu, 10 years old. Bofan, 10 years old. Oh, by the way, all those kids I just mentioned also learned that crazy 800 algorithm method. Oh yeah, and they are dominating 2x2 on pyramids now too. What the fuck? Okay, I'm sorry that escalated so quickly, but if I were to explain everything these kids have accomplished in recent years, I'll be here all day. So now that you understand the gravity of the situation, let's talk about how this happened. To become one of the best in the world at queuing, you need mainly 3 things: time, discipline, and a good learning structure. I'll be showing these things in a graph, divided by the different age groups that make up most of the queuing community. The graph is only an approximation, but it will be good enough to understand the point of this video. The first one is pretty self-explanatory. You need to practice a lot of time, thousands of hours in fact, in order to become world class at pretty much anything. I'm gonna put the time in descending order, since normally as you get older in life you have more responsibilities and therefore less time to practice. So far the kids seem to be winning, but let's take a look at the other factors. Discipline is the ability to practice consistently for long periods of time. Its importance is also pretty self-explanatory. In order to become world class, you need to practice almost every single day. This time I'm putting the kids on the low end of the spectrum, for obvious reasons. The adults on the high end and the teenagers a little bit below them. Remember, this is all an approximation and outliers do exist, of course. Finally we have learning structure. Maybe I choose a weird name for this one, but what I mean is knowing what things you need to learn and how to practice them. It doesn't matter how much time and discipline you have, if you are still using the beginner's method, it's impossible to become world class. I'm putting this one in ascending order. Older cubers are usually better at doing the research and figuring out the most efficient way to practice than a kid, for example. Taking a look at the final graph, it's obvious why queuing used to be dominated by older teenagers and young adults. Kids usually have a lot of free time, but not a lot of discipline or a good learning structure. So they might practice a lot if they really like queuing, but probably not consistent or efficiently enough. Now you may be wondering, how do you explain all of this then? Well, that's because in recent years, for a lot of children, the graph has started to look kinda like this. Let me explain. You see, in China it's very common for parents to want their kid to become really good at an activity outside of school. That has historically been stuff like chess, playing an instrument, or competitive math, for example. However, in recent years, queuing has joined that club of activities as well. And when you consider the fact that most speed queuing manufacturers are from China, and the government itself promotes queuing as a sport, it's obvious now how an entire ecosystem was created in the country focused around creating the next speed queuing champion.
In China, like the parents, they want their kids to do something well. For example, if their kids can learn chess, they can go to a competition of chess and they can win a trophy or something. That's something that Chinese parents want. That's one of the reasons that they send their kids to learn queuing.
Another important part of this ecosystem are queuing schools and queuing coaches, which have become very popular in the country. This completely maxes out the learning structure criteria that we talked about earlier, since kids no longer have to be good at doing the research to figure out how to practice, because they now have a literal professional with years of experience telling them exactly what to do. And what about discipline, you may ask? They are still kids at the end of the day. And yes, it's rare for them to be super disciplined at that age, but let's be honest, if the parents are interested enough in their kid becoming really good, they're gonna make sure the kid does the necessary practice. So yeah, no more discipline needed if your parents are going to quote-unquote force you, or at least incentivize you to do the work. That's pretty much how it happened. It's a no-brainer that if thousands of kids start to have a fully maxed out graph, a couple dozen prodigies are going to come up. However, there is one exception, one child prodigy who doesn't have anything to do with China. In fact, I already mentioned him earlier on the video. His name is Theodor Sagder. He is from Poland and he was the one who took the world record single away from Xuanyi with the first ever time under 3 seconds. Among other accomplishments, he holds the second fastest average in Europe and he got 6th place at the last World Championship. But how did he become so good if he wasn't a part of this Chinese ecosystem? Well, to be honest, he seems to be kind of an outlier. He obviously has a lot of time at his disposal, as pretty much every kid his age, but in terms of learning structure, we know that he has an older brother who is very good at 2x2 and 3x3, the same events Theodor is good at, so it's safe to assume that his brother is kinda his coach, or at least he led him in the right direction. Obviously, to all of that you have to add discipline, to actually do the work consistently, which is rare for kids at his age, but it happens occasionally. Before I end the video, there's one thing I have to confess. You see, every single ranking that I've showed you during this video was outdated by a single day. Let me explain. I started writing this script on the 27th of April 2026, and the events that took place the day before, on the 26th, were so absurd that I felt the need to cover them in a separate part of the video. So, get ready, because on the very same day, Jishen improved his average from 487 to 477. That might not seem that impressive, but remember this kid is literally 6 years old. Then Theodor improved his average from 469 to 441, becoming number 1 in Europe by a large margin, and as a reminder, he's 9. Bo Fan Sang improved his average from 498 all the way down to 438, now being left 4th in the world at only 10 years old. And finally, the craziest thing that happened that day was that Xuanyi broke the world record average again, getting a 371 average. And to top it all off, on the last solve he got a 2.8 second single, the second ever sub 3 single and just 0.04 away from the world record. And all of that at just 9 years old. Also, I forgot to mention, but on the same day Zheng Chen got a 332 single, ranking him 7th in the world at 14 years old. So, after all that happened, on the same day, in case you forgot, here's the updated rankings. I feel very old saying this, but the average age of the top 6 in the world is now 10. 10 years of age. Timon has literally been competing for 10 years and somehow all these kids are still faster than him, what the f. And that's the reason why every pro speedcuber is a kid now. Thank you so much for watching the whole video, it really means a lot. This is my first proper cubing video on this channel, so please let me know in the comments any suggestions or critiques you may have in order to improve my future videos, as well as any topic you want me to cover. Thank you again and have a nice day. Bye!